So I'm going to do a little postcard from EMF Camp, which happened about a month ago. And it is Pecha Kucha style, which means that there's 20 images and they automatically change every 20 seconds. So there will be some awkward pauses while I wait for the slides to change.
We love awkwardness here.
Yeah. Okay, so I started in Berlin. I took the train, this nice red line to Guildford, which is where EMF Camp 2016 happened. And then I transferred into my friend's car and we drove over here to Ledbury near the Welsh border. And we ended up here, which is EMF Camp. This is what it looked like at night. There was a big crazy area called the Null Sector. There's lasers. I guess those are lasers here. They also, those frames around the lasers were firing flames by the last day. What else? Well, in addition to lasers and flames, there were a load of talks and workshops inside this kind of COVID scary tent that I was masked up in. This talk here is about a device here, a little rover, the EMF rover. So you could connect from your phone, you could drive it around, you could chase people. There are a couple of robots like this driving around. There was one like this, there's a car. There's one that was a stand-up robot. That was pretty good fun. Oh yeah, the Polycoin. This is Mike's project. This is a very angry Polycoin. Someone has touched it or tried to move it or something. So it's in disaster mode where it just kind of flashes crazily. But Mike's done talks about this a few times. So I won't talk about it anymore. Another thing that was there was this clock, which I think this looks like, I didn't really look up when I was looking at the photos earlier. I think it's fluorescent tubes. This was great. You could see it across the lake. It tried to show you the current time. The problem was that it was always 1 or 2 minutes wrong, which just gave me incredible rage. What else? This is Minitel, which is like a teletext Prestel kind of service from France. So there's a genuine French telephone. Kind of looks like teletext, not quite. If you want real teletext, you need this, which is someone's old combo video cathode ray tube television. It's showing live displays from the EMF Camp bar. It's at the end of the bar. There's a little red cable at the bottom that's plugged into the front, which is where the video signal is coming from. And this is the other end of the red cable, goes into a Pi Zero. I thought there'd be an interesting adapter, and it's actually just soldered straight onto the motherboard because it turns out that you can just output composite video with teletext straight from a Pi Zero. What's coming up next? Oh yeah, so I also volunteered for 2 shifts at the bar. So for 2 evenings, if you went into the bar, you could buy your beer from me. This was my little tag that they strapped onto me so that I could sell beer. Almost everything at EMF is volunteer based. So that was my volunteer contribution to the thing. At the other end of the bar, there's a fax machine. They were running a copper voice telephone network this year. So you could bring along your old style 1950s to 80s telephone and plug it in. This fax machine, if you wanted to, you could fax a special number and it would appear on Twitter. So this is the very last fax tweet or the very last fax that was sent, which comes on EMF Facsimile Twitter from Jonty, who was one of the organizers. There's proof that I really was there. There's a beer I've sold myself and gone outside to drink with EMF 22 in the background. There's a couple of lakes on site that they look very pretty. They're very stinky. Some people were talking about swimming in them, and then when they saw them, they decided not to. Okay, so every year at EMF Camp, or every 2 years, you get a badge. They design and build a badge, especially every year. this is super tiny. I got my hand in there for scale. It's got a screen, it's got a joystick, it runs MicroPython. You can put your own software on there. The other badge that I had was this workshop I did that I took part in, which was a surface mount soldering workshop, which is actually probably my most favorite thing that I did. So this was a learn to surface mount solder workshop, and I managed to make it work, which I was super pleased by. There was a lot of these tool receipts everywhere as well. Here's a printout of the schedule. So you can see there's a bunch of blacksmith stuff going on, bowl making, for example. There's a ceilidh. There's just a cafe where they were giving out free coffee, all kinds of stuff like that going on. So back at my tent, this is me sitting inside my tent. I had this little solar panel. I've only used it once before. I took it on this camp. I was managing to get about 300 milliamps USB voltage out of it. So it was enough to keep my phone charged during the day. And here's a map of the site. So null sector, that laser stuff is in the top, right at the very top. That's the noisy end. At the bottom is the quiet end with family camping. There's all kinds of stuff in between, the bar, various stages where those talks happened. Yeah. And at the very end, everything cleared away. All that's left is some fences and some hay bales and these ducks who were super pleased that they could come out of their lake and take back their territory. So that was my super, super brief postcard from Electromagnetic Field Camp 2022. If you want to come again, or if you want to come, the next one is in probably summer 2024. Cool. That's it. That's how fast it was.
Cool.
Fun.
There was some fantastic presentations, but one of the ones I love every time is the PowerPoint karaoke.
Yep. Yeah.
Brilliant. So the basic concept is that they've got a bunch of slide decks and topics, and people will volunteer to get up on stage and present these slide decks with no knowledge of what's actually inside the slide deck. So they see the slides as they appear on the screen. And there's one slide deck that's appeared pretty much every time I think they've done this, and literally every page is chicken. So yeah, absolutely brilliant. There was one of the presenters was that won the competition was a 12-year-old kid who presented on emojis, and his presentation was it's something like the future of emojis or something, and he kind of went through it and was saying one of the slides that came up was this lady who was screaming with a car on fire behind her, and the whole thing went dark very quickly with this kid presenting, because he was like, this woman is having a bad day. Some people think this sort of thing's amusing. It really isn't. You know, she's having a terrible day. You know, her car's on fire, her children are dead, and it's just wow. Okay, but it had everyone in absolute pieces. Absolutely brilliant.
So reading the slides sounds like what politicians do.
Well, there's no reading slides. Literally, it was all just pretty much all just images, with the exception of chicken.
Yeah. So there's two questions. One is it only camping? You could take a camper van if you wanted, if you regard that as camping or not. And I know some people stayed in hotels and drove in every day. So there's just pubs and stuff nearby that you can stay in, but that is by far not the biggest thing. But no one is compelling you to stay there or thinking badly of you if you leave.
I like my creature comforts now.
Yeah. No, there's definitely people who are like, I don't want to stay in a tent. I want to stay in a hotel. And as long as you're prepared to drive yourself in, there was plenty of parking.
I stayed in a tent, and I must say, I think when I go next time, I'm gonna rent a camper van. But it was awesome. I really enjoyed it. I took my dad, actually.
Yeah. And the other question is, any equivalent EMF camp in the US? So I know there's a bunch around Europe. There's Chaos Communications Camp. There is Hackers. I have a sticker for somewhere here.
Yeah, I'm off to MCH.
Say again?
I'm off to MCH.
Oh, yeah? I don't know about the US, though.
There are similar things, but not identical from what I've heard, but I couldn't tell you any details.
Yeah.
So Mike, how'd your Holy Coin thing go?
It went pretty well. It worked. That was the main thing. There was a few Wi-Fi issues down one end of the field, but that affected everybody, not just me. So, yeah, it caused a few frustrations, but I couldn't do anything. Literally, the Wi-Fi was just something wrong with it. But yeah, the devices worked fine. The game ran. Yeah, there was a few incidents of people trying to open them up and triggering the tamper detection, which is, I think the best ones was when I was standing in the tea tent, because one of the hacker groups had brought a tent and basically were constantly serving tea the whole day. So I was having a nice cup of tea and a chinwag, and my phone starts beeping saying tamper detection triggered on such as. Sorry, my phone decided to do weird stuff. My phone started alerting me to say, it's been tampered, and in the distance, I suddenly heard the siren going off of the tampered device. So I walked over there, and there was somebody holding it, kind of looking quite sheepish, and I was like, "Oh, can I help you with that?" And,
maybe you should do something a bit more gentle with the tamper detection rather than making it like a supermarket theft alarm.
Oh, it's awesome. It's perfect.
But you can't make it stop. It doesn't. Once you've set it off, then you're screwed. You're like, what have I done? Of course, I wanted to open this thing and look inside it, because I do that to everything around EMF Camp. I open everything and have a look.
So I've made it now time out after about a minute or so. So
5 seconds. 5 seconds should be enough, surely.
Yeah. So it makes a siren and it screams, "Help me!" But what's bizarre is the exact same thing happened when I walked past Milliways. I was walking past Milliways and the tamper alarm on my phone went off, and literally the guy walked out of Milliways carrying it. And it's just like, how? There was the first one that actually went off was the tea tent, because the tea tent blew away at one point with the polycoin inside it. So yeah, that triggered it.
Nice. Sounds like fun.
Yeah. I think there's a good percentage of people that come to this meetup were there. I was not feeling massively social, so I wasn't chasing people down. But yeah.
Cool. I got to meet Sophie as well.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, in the badge tent quite randomly at the very beginning, and then didn't see you the rest of the time.
Yeah. I managed, because I was the same as you. I was having trouble with the Wi-Fi, and I was so annoyed because I was like, I need to get that badge. So then I volunteered to get it sooner, and I started trying to hack it. But then there was no Wi-Fi. I was like, so I got it early and I couldn't do anything. And I eventually did hack it, but the time that I had, I just added an extra module and wrote Sophie test because I just ran out of time.
Nice.
But yeah,
people not live without Wi-Fi?
Huh?
Can people not live without Wi-Fi?
No.
Not at EMF Camp.
Yeah, definitely not.
You can EMF Camp. You are allowed to run Ethernet to your tent by cable if you bring your own cable. but you are not allowed to run your own access point from your
Oh.
tent.
The badges needed Wi-Fi to upgrade, and you needed to upgrade
Yeah.
before you could download any apps for the badge. So it was we're back to chicken and egg rather than chicken and chicken.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Wi-Fi. You got to have good Wi-Fi. EMF Camp. Sure to God.
Yeah, there was just this one end was a little bit rubbish. I'm not really sure what was going on there.
Yeah, I
That's such
think
a
one of,
shame.
one of the cabinets was out for a little while.
This went on the whole time. We had problems down the far end of the field. Null sector was just a nightmare for it.
But then,
It's
to be
just
fair, I mean, it wasn't bad. There were 3,000 people there and 16,000 devices logged into the network. So, you know, it wasn't bad.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's pretty good actually. It's got a. I'm sure I
The
couldn't
thing-
host that many people.
The thing that was interesting was I didn't have any reports of problems from the devices down the field. The probably the bottom 2/3 of the field. No issues whatsoever. The final 1/3, lots and lots of them dropping on and off the Wi-Fi network.
Hold on.
This was my tent. It had solar lights on it.
Oh. Show that again.
Is that show it again? Because we didn't get a
Show
proper.
it again.
It's very pink. Solar lights is cool.
I'll play it again. Hang on.
Yeah, I was vaguely in the mood for doing more stuff with LEDs on my tent, and in the end, I just had too much other stuff going on. But maybe next time I won't actually make some effort. I hope.
Cool.
That's my
Oh,
dad's soldering. What Ben was saying, that little device.
Oh yeah, the badge thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah.
It was
So
cool.
how did he find it, Sophie?
He loved it, but he wanted
Right.
to be electronical engineer in the Marines when he was
Right.
a teenager, but he trained for years, but then he didn't get in because he was colorblind. But he's
Right.
super into electronics and everything. That's this like
Oh yeah, that thing's great.
Yeah.
that's the device that Ben.
Yeah.
I've got it actually. I've got it in my bag. Do you want to see it?
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
showing it to my CEO of my
I'll
company.
get mine. We can all get our weird cat toys. What it's meant to be is it's a surface mount soldered cat. Yeah. Oh, here.
Yeah.
Yeah, look, there we go. Matching.
Oh, you took yours out of the thing.
It's still working.
Yeah.
Must have done a good job of soldering then. Who trained you?
That was the interesting thing. So I've always thought of surface mount soldering as impossibly hard and only for super skilled experts. And I'm amazed that this basically worked for each session. Clement was doing about 20 people.
Yeah, it was
And
awesome.
they all worked basically.
Cool.
Yeah.
Do you know
like-
what? He inspired me to do my own PCB board for a hedgehog.
Oh yeah, I've done my own PC. I've done my own PCBs before, but only ever like through the hole, not surface mount.
Well,
Yeah, I've done a bunch of those, and even though I keep thinking it's going to be hard in terms of the surface mount, you know, for like the SOI for the SOICs and stuff, they're not bad. What I'll do to begin with is I'll use little adapters. Okay, you see these little guys right there? I got little adapters on them, and that gets me started with my there's one that gets me started with my prototypes. And they're not particularly hard to solder if you solder, as you guys say. If you can pin it down, you can actually just tap on them and get them in place. While we were talking, I broke a resistor because I put Sophie, that was a vise I was using to hold that device in. And of course, I broke one of the resistors off. I broke one of the resistors off and had to resoldered back on. But you can do all that stuff. Incidentally, speaking of crazy soldering, I took the Raspberry Pi apart and reversed the connector so that I could put the fan on top properly.
Or onto the underside of the board.
Yeah, because I wanted the board, because I wanted what I wanted was I wanted the fan to be on top, the Raspberry Pi to be under it, and then the other boards to be under that.
Yeah.
Because the Pi made the most heat, right? And it makes no sense to have a fan unless the fan is on top of the Pi. So I've always wondered, like, why do they build it with the hat? Why don't they build it with the hat with the Pi's on the top? But I guess it's because some hats are bigger and not quite, I don't know, whatever.
Yeah.
I got these, Vinny, power over Ethernet today for my Pi, and I think it goes over the top, doesn't it? I haven't put it on yet.
That's theirs. Yeah, theirs probably works.
Because I want to do a supercluster. That's the latest thing I've been working on.
Yeah, and you're gonna put water cooling on too. You're gonna water cool it like gosh, who did that? Someone just did that recently. They had
the Greek guys earlier. They were doing that, weren't they?
Yeah.